and Recovery for Native American Treatment Court participants, presented by Regena Frye, CJ Aducci, all from the Department of the Chickasaw Nation, Department of Family Services. My name is Jordan Martinson. I'm a Tribal Law and Policy Specialist with TLPI. I'm also joined by Marlon Footracer, TLPI's Administrative Coordinator.
Thank you, Jordan. As a reminder, recordings will be available at www.enhancementtraining.org. Again, thank you for joining us. And now we'll turn the time over to our...
Thank you, Marlon. The sound cut out there for a second, so am I free to proceed? I didn't hear the end.
You're free to proceed,
Okay.
CJ. Thank you.
My apologies for that. Well, thank you all very much for the opportunity to present with you today to discuss our involvement with the Chickasaw Nation. And my name is CJ Aducci. I'm an executive officer here in the Department of Family Services. I work with Regena Frye and Amber Hoover, and all three of us will have an opportunity to present today and share with you more about how we are working in our Recovery Resources program to support our Chickasaw Drug Court participants. On our title slide, I want to go back and just unpack for a few moments the phrase unconquered and unconquerable. This is a phrase or terminology that is used quite frequently here in the Chickasaw Nation. You will find it on many of our marketing and promotional materials. And this is messaging that we want to convey to our citizens and to our communities that the Chickasaw people are unconquered and unconquerable. This reflects our strength, our resilience, our perseverance, and that we have a warrior tradition and we will never quit. And ultimately, that is something that we want our drug court participants to learn and become aware of throughout their involvement in our treatment programs during the duration of their involvement in drug court. We want them to walk away knowing they have a warrior spirit, that they will never quit, and they themselves are unconquered and unconquerable. I'll provide an overview of where we're headed today. And Regena and Amber, you're going to be delighted with both of them. They have, I think, almost a combined 20 years of experience working with our drug court programs here in the Chickasaw Nation. And so you are going to learn a ton of information today from those two specifically. So to just give you an idea as to where we're headed today in our presentation, we will discuss our relationship with the state court here in Oklahoma, particularly within 3 counties that exist within the boundaries of the Chickasaw Nation. So you will hear throughout this presentation references to Pontotoc, McLean, and Garvin counties. We'll also draw distinctions between the role of our treatment services that we provide here through the Chickasaw Nation and how that intersects or integrates within the larger state court system. And then ultimately, we plan to share outcomes of how we're working here in the Chickasaw Nation with our Chickasaw Drug Court participants that we think reflect the overall positive impact that we're making in the lives of our drug court participants here in the nation. At the beginning of our presentations, we always like to take an opportunity to make reference to Governor Bill Anitubby. He is the governor and leader of the Chickasaw Nation. And you might think that we are required to make reference to him when we give presentations, but we are not required to do so. That is something we choose to do because he has provided such an incredible vision for our mental health and substance use services here in the Chickasaw Nation. And he is now serving in his 9th term as governor. And ultimately, I think Regena and Amber would certainly agree with this. We would probably not be here presenting today if it were not for his vision and his commitment to serving and supporting our drug courts across the state of Oklahoma. And so we're very thankful for his leadership and just want to emphasize that because of his leadership, we are able to do very much for our citizens who are experiencing addiction. In this slide, we want to take just a few moments to give you some more context as to our setup here in the Chickasaw Nation as we intersect and work with the state courts in the Chickasaw Nation boundaries. For Chickasaws, at least for many Chickasaw citizens, as well as other First Americans, they have a history of land removal, loss of language, loss of key cultural or heritage aspects. And so that sets a backdrop for where we're coming from in the Chickasaw Nation when we speak about the work we're doing to support our citizens. And so unfortunately, First Americans and other tribes are far too familiar with this vicious cycle. And so we want to use this cycle to explain what might happen here in the Chickasaw Nation if our Recovery Resource Services program was not involved with our state courts as they provided services to our Chickasaw citizens. So the Chickasaws, prior to removal, existed in the southeastern United States, specifically in the areas of Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama. Through that land removal, Chickasaws obviously lost their traditional homelands, key aspects of their culture and language. And then over time and throughout generations, sadly, that has led to identity loss for some citizens, elements of historical trauma, a disconnectedness from key family relationships, and also from their tribe. And then we know through decades of research that generally speaking, First Americans are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience various social ailments, poverty, teen pregnancy, mental health problems, substance use. And so you all know, because of your involvement in tribal drug courts, that too often that leads to family separations, criminality, which would ultimately end for many citizens entering our state or tribal legal systems. And so as we go through this cycle, just want to give some examples as to what might happen if our Recovery Resource Services program of the Chickasaw Nation was not involved with our Chickasaw Drug Court participants. We would have bifurcated treatment for those citizens, and more than likely, the treatment services they received would not be culturally informed because they would be receiving those services from an entity or organization that exists outside of the Chickasaw Nation. And so key aspects of their culture, of their heritage, cultural norms and values may inadvertently be missed or may not even be considered as courts are staffing individual cases, making decisions around sanctions or incentives for drug court participants. Also, if we were not involved, we would be very concerned that outside services would not be familiar with the multitude of resources we have available to our citizens here in the Chickasaw Nation. In the Chickasaw Nation, we provide over 200 different programs and services for our citizens. And I'm sure Regina and Amber could attest to this also. We are Chickasaw Nation employees, and it's difficult for us to keep tabs on all of the different services, their locations, and new services that are being created. So even just the thought of somebody who is not a citizen or who is not employed by the Chickasaw Nation attempting to learn or be familiar with all of those resources, likely that would not be the case. And so if a Chickasaw Drug Court participant were receiving services outside of their tribe, there would be a major disconnect from all of the other resources they have available, such as housing, employment, and health services, and many, many others. Also, if we were not involved, our citizens would not be receiving integrated health care as they go through their treatment programs. Because we work in the Chickasaw Nation and we utilized the shared medical record of our hospital, we're able to actively communicate with medical providers, with our emergency room, so that we can share information and so that we can provide more holistic treatment and integrated treatment services for our participants. If our Chickasaw Drug Court participants were receiving treatment services outside the Chickasaw Nation, those providers would have no access or very, very limited access only through releases of information to be able to discuss the overall health with their medical providers. So this is a key element for us that keeps us connected to our hospital and our health systems and keeps our citizens engaged in holistic healthcare as they go through our services. And so ultimately, if that were the case, if our program did not exist and was not involved in the treatment for our Chickasaw citizens, we would be concerned that our citizens would be experiencing poor treatment and would likely have negative outcomes from their involvement in drug court. And so ultimately then that would lead to a continuous cycle for our citizens. And so having said all that, by no means intend to imply that our drug court programs that exist outside the Chickasaw Nation are not effective. They're very effective at what they do. We just think there are so many specific things to consider when working with the Chickasaw citizen in drug court that due to our involvement, we're able to provide more holistic wraparound services that keeps them engaged with their tribe and keeps them engaged in their culture, and that through that we can have better outcomes for our participants. And so our mission here in the Chickasaw Nation is to enhance the overall quality of life of the Chickasaw people. That's a mission that guides everything we do, and that's the mission that led to the creation of our Recovery Resource Services program. And so as we go through the remaining slides, Regina and Amber will really discuss with you more of the details of those relationships that we have with those three counties, Pontotoc, McLean, and Garvin counties, how we work directly with those court systems, and they will also discuss key aspects and elements of our program. And Regina, I think you'll take it over from here, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you,
my
CJ.
fault. Sorry about that.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, my name is Regina Frye. I'm the director here with the Recovery Resource Services program in the Chickasaw Nation. And just really excited to be with you guys today and just share a little bit about what we do. Our program, Recovery Resource Services, provides integrated and collaborative services for our citizens here in the tribe that are, got something come up on my screen real quick, that are involved in our county court systems. So we strive every day to establish these integrated and collaborative relationships with everyone we encounter to meet the needs of our citizens. So as we're working every day, which I know all of you are as well, in fighting the disease of addiction, we try to utilize the resources that we have here in the Chickasaw Nation. And some of the ways we do that is we have established memorandums of understandings with the counties that CJ previously mentioned, Pontotoc County, Garvin County, and McLean County. And so through that, we are able to work directly with those court systems to help our citizens be more successful in their drug court programs. We provide full service treatment for our citizens here, working as a team and just all having the client's best interest in mind. So we are not only integrated with our drug court teams, but also we are integrated with other programs here in the nation, just providing a wraparound approach and getting them hooked up with as many services as we can to help them be successful. We have right here, this is a picture of our lovely state, Oklahoma, and highlighted in the red is just to give you kind of a quick glimpse, a quick idea of where we're at. We are, CJ, Amber, and I right now are on the Little Blue Star in Ada and Pontotoc County, and then in the red are the 13 and a half counties that are in the jurisdictional boundaries of the Chickasaw Nation. All right, so our approach, healing to wellness, a holistic approach to treatment. This includes a variety of things, which in a little while, Amber will go into more detail on each one of these, but we feel like, and just, I want to clarify real quick to make sure you all know that we do not have our own drug court. Just a lot of times folks kind of assume that we have our own drug court. So I just want to make sure you know, we do not have our own drug court here in the Chickasaw Nation. Again, we are a treatment program. So we provide the treatment to our citizens in these county drug courts. So just wanted to clarify that for you. So healing to wellness, integration and collaboration, we do that in a multitude of ways. We try our very best in what we do to connect our citizens to their culture. We provide multiple opportunities for community involvement here in the town of Ada and other towns, and also the tribal community. Inside the tribe, we have employment services. So our case managers work diligently in trying to get our folks hooked up with employment. We have education programs in the tribe. We, CJ mentioned the health integration that we have with our health department, the tribal Chickasaw Nation Health. And then also compliance. We actually have a memorandum of understanding with our Chickasaw Nation Light Horse Police Department, and we have a full-time compliance officer. Amber will talk more about that here in just a moment as well. So just to, again, just kind of highlight some of the services that we offer here in Recovery Resource Services: therapeutic services, individual, groups, navigation. We call our case managers navigators. Instead of case manager, we changed that title several years ago because, you know, they're not just managing cases, people, but they are actually navigating them through services, helping them navigate, you know, through their path in drug court. Transportation services, we have a transportation specialist. Peer support groups where the clients basically facilitate their own meetings. And then also for those who want to be sponsors, we offer assistance to them and help them learn how to be sponsors. Mentioned community involvement, employment, compliance again, education, health integration, culture. There's just so many things that we try to do, try to go above and beyond in all that we do to make sure, as CJ said, that the citizens feel like when they leave drug court that they are unconquerable and that they can be successful in recovery. And we all know that once they graduate, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. And so we're so fortunate to be able to provide these services, to have this program. Extremely blessed to have the integrated and collaborative relationship that we do with the drug courts, the state drug courts here. Again, just thank you for being with us today. And I am going to turn it over to Miss Amber Hoover, who is going to delve in more depth to these topics. I try really hard not to talk too much, Amber. I'll save it all for you. So, Amber Hoover.
You know I have a tendency to talk way too much. Chuck Ma, hi, it's great to be here. The list of things that was on the previous slide, I'm going to do my best to emphasize compliance role in all those areas. So bear with me, and I just want to do a brief overview of the services that we do provide and how compliance is a key role in all of those things we do. So with the therapeutic services, you know, it's listed here, the assessments, individual therapy. They have an opportunity if they want to include their family. We have the opportunity to provide services to anybody that they want to include in their treatment. And then they also have the opportunity to attend group. Compliance is a huge role, oddly enough, in our therapeutic services. He is the compliance as a whole is embedded in our staff meetings. So when we staff everyone that we serve, they are aware of the struggles that are going on, generally speaking. There are, right now, during a difficult time that we're all experiencing, it is very important that everyone on the team is aware of where our individual is so that we can meet them where they're at. So compliance is very, very important when we're talking about, their assessments, where are they at, how do they need to approach them? So in the therapeutic component of it, compliance is very, very involved and very essential to ensure that we bridge those gaps. So when they go to visit with them and to see how things are going compliance-wise, they're able to have a little general knowledge of where they're at emotionally. With that, we have found that our compliance is able to be more informed, more trauma-informed. They have the ability to approach those we serve with kindness and grace, which also in turn also builds a positive relationship with law enforcement based on the experiences we've had with those we serve. A lot of times people come to us and they don't have the best experiences with law enforcement. So at the very beginning, we have the opportunity to start building better relationships through compliance. So, some success stories have been just them being able to and feel comfortable reaching out to compliance and to law enforcement in general and feeling safe and not having those fear factors. The same way with our navigational services, not only therapeutically, is it important to include compliance, but navigationally, with all the case management issues that we all have experienced, it's very important when compliance is involved with those as well. If they know that they need a little encouragement in finding a job, compliance has shown that they can be just as big of a support as our navigators can be. Navigationally, we work with them on any and every need that they have, jobs, utility issues, just trying to find ways and build skills to look for resources. We have, and that also compliance supports those endeavors when they go do their check-ins and see them out in the public. They're like, hey, I heard, you're working on these things, just the motivation component of it. Compliance has been a huge, they're just not there to check on them and see if they're doing the right thing. They're there to be supportive and be a team player. Regina and CJ, please jump in at any time if you think of something I missed, because I can go on forever on these slides. And if you have any questions, feel free to set it in the chat, and because a lot of times I'm just trying to hit the high points because I can stay on a topic for way too long.
I'll jump in for a second, Amber. I know here in Recovery Resource Services, I'm sure many of you have said this yourself, but case management, navigation, we believe is equally as important as therapeutic services, because if someone is homeless or hungry and unsafe and they're not receiving help with those things, how can we expect them to come in and focus on treatment and stay sober? And so what Amber was emphasizing in regards to our compliance officer, when folks come in and we're aware of the whole team is aware of all the issues they have going on. And when our compliance officer is sitting in on our staff meetings and we're discussing these things, then he is a huge advocate and huge support for not only the client, but for the team, not only for Recovery Resource Services staff, but the whole drug court team, and just helping do whatever we can to get our folks hooked up with services. And our navigators not only see folks in the office, but also out in the field. Of course, now with COVID-19, we're doing services virtually right now, but hopefully things will get back to normal pretty soon. And they'll be working with them in the field. They go to their homes. And, one time we had a client who had been living for I don't know, over a year with no electricity and no water, and just never said anything. And if we hadn't been able to go and go to his home, we wouldn't have been able to help out with that, to see the need. And so
And
there's
in
just,
that instance right there, the compliance officer is the one that,
you cut out there, Amber.
I said the compliance officer in that situation was actually the one that discovered that he
Right.
had. So it's crucial. And that's my whole goal, is to emphasize the compliance component and how they just bridge the gaps that we have experienced thus far. There was a question asking if our groups are for everyone or they're specific to drug court. We have specific groups for drug court. Our drug court is a 5-phase drug court. So each phase has their own groups assigned to them. We have a total of 11 drug court groups that we provide. Even now, virtually, we have been able to provide everything that we did prior to the pandemic that was in person. We have converted it to virtual through Zoom. So I hope that answers your question. Transportation services. Prior to the pandemic, we were able to provide transportation services within 5 miles of the Ada city limits. Primarily those services were limited to the Pontotoc County Drug Court system. However, in regards to compliance too, we have been able to pull him in even on transportation, not to use him as transportation, but for him to do ride-alongs, to get more acquainted with the participants, to see the softer side of compliance, and just to continue to build that rapport and foster a safe environment for our participants to know that we're not, the compliance is more than just enforcing the law. They are still people too. They're still fun and great individuals, and we can all, doesn't matter where we come from. It's important that we all continue to see each other's many different sides. So with transportation, our compliance has been amazing. He has transported in some instances, special occasions and stuff, and he also jumps in which I failed to mention earlier with the case management. If any of our participants have legal issues outside the county, they're the first ones to jump in and help, because amazingly enough, no matter the networking that we do, law enforcement knows law enforcement, and so they're able to connect across different counties and even state lines. We've had many opportunities where people have came to us and sought services and had issues outside the state, and compliance has been a huge asset in bridging those gaps and building those relationships to ensure that their navigational needs get met. So I wish that I could take him with us everywhere we go, because he is a huge asset to us in so many ways. Some amazing things that have happened through transportation. We have someone who we served that lived, give or take, about 10 to 11 miles outside of the city limits of Ada. And so we were limited in being able to get out to that individual. However, our compliance officer bridged those gaps, specifically in bad weather and stuff. He was able to do what we weren't able to do at the moment. And in the end, I feel like that relationship was fostered to the point where that participant and many others that watched the kindness that he had, it just made it a little bit better. And they also were more willing to share their struggles and concerns and seek out his guidance, and just overall, just the building of the relationships is the biggest thing. We have been so successful in helping them get to where they need to go when they need to go, even if it is just for grocery shopping. Like Regina had mentioned a couple of slides back, basic needs are really important, and they can't focus if they don't have food in their refrigerator. So transportation has been a huge thing to continue to bridge that gap with needed basic needs. Peer support services, those would be what we would consider not necessarily an AA meeting or an NA meeting, but just a meeting where all the people we serve can come together, talk about their week, their wins and their losses, but also mentor each other as well. Those that are new to the program, they can say, okay, these are the unspoken rules. And also those that have been in a little bit, they get to see where they've been and where they are today, and guide and lead, and also get feedback on what is working and what isn't working in each other's recovery program. The 12-step sponsorship groups that we have, for those that are willing and open to help their fellow drug court participants, we have a meeting. We even have a curriculum that we go through with them to kind of guide them and teach them that just because they're a sponsor, that doesn't mean they stop learning. A lot of the times, what you put in is what you get back, and having an open mind and knowing that it's in a relationship. It's not just a one-way street with your sponsees. It's a give and take. And with compliance, this too is something that it gives him an opportunity when he goes and he checks to see how our participants are doing. Then he can say, hey, how's sponsoring going? It's another doorway to continue to build a positive relationship with law enforcement. But it also gets them to talking, oddly enough, and sharing even maybe things that they normally wouldn't have shared. The outcome to having those sponsor meetings, we've developed some amazing sponsors that continued even after graduating the program to continue to give back to the program. We have had an opportunity to have them give their testimony to other people within the nation and in the community. And that's not a success of our program, that's a success for them. But just watching them and seeing them grow has been an amazing opportunity, I think, for all of us.
Amber, if you don't mind, I want to just say one little thing in regards to this 12. Will you go back one slide, please, sir? I was just going to say that how we kind of evolved to have this 12-step sponsorship group is we were kind of noticing that when folks were turning in their sponsor meeting sheet to drug court, we were kind of finding out that maybe they just got it signed, or their sponsor just signed it, and they weren't really meeting, they weren't really working on things. And so it was becoming an issue. And so, looking into it and talking to folks, we figured out that a lot of it was they just didn't really know what to do. They didn't know what was expected. They wanted to help, they wanted to be sponsors, but they just didn't really know what to do. And so that's, we identified that gap. And so that's how we started this 12-step sponsorship group.
And then the cultural enhancement opportunities, we were struggling to find a way to ensure that those that have been disconnected had an opportunity to be reconnected. We had noticed a lot of, traditionally speaking, you get disconnected from your family most of the time. And so not only are they trying to rebuild family relations, but they're also trying to figure out who they are now. Because there's a lot of changing going on whenever they're going into recovery. So this gave them an opportunity. We found a way to partner with our cultural departments and set up classes to where they could start learning more about themselves, what their interests were, what they liked, what they didn't like. This gave them an opportunity not only to participate in cultural activities, but also one more opportunity for a sober activity that they learn and a skill that they can share with their family. With what came from these cultural opportunities was also another opportunity for compliance to just be one of them and hang out and have fun and laugh and to learn about them. This also gave them an opportunity to learn more about themselves. They learned that they are able to draw, and they are able to do things with their hands. And they're also able to take that home and share that with their kids, with their significant others, with their parents. It's gave them another opportunity too to explore who they are and what they want in life, who they want to project themselves to be. There's someone that was an amazing artist in our program, amazing, and I'll talk about other opportunities that we have, but it also included art, and we were making posters for a National Drug Court day or week. We had people come and judge them, and she was amazing. She was, and she knew she was good at it, but she didn't really know how it fulfilled her, made her feel good to draw and to make art. And she started realizing that was a piece that was missing. She knew she was good at it, but she didn't realize how much joy she got out of it. So it's getting them reconnected to who they are, and building that void that the substances had filled for so long. I think it's amazing to watch them grow and to see them realize who they can be. Community involvement, this kind of goes to what I was mentioning earlier. We have the opportunities to participate in community activities within I think the county puts on a lot of different activities. We have one called Step Out of the Darkness. We have, like I talked about, the National Drug Court month and week that we try to do activities to highlight the positive components of recovery. There's Relay for Life that we also try really hard to make sure that we're involved with. This is a partnership not only with the city and the county, but also it's a partnership with the drug court program for the county. They highly encourage all of their participants to participate in community activities. They're required to do community service. Compliance is a huge component of that as well, not to ensure that they're where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be, but just to be there and to experience it with them and to share in those experiences. Also, again, it's just we take every opportunity we can to build positive law enforcement relationships with them. But it also gives our compliance an opportunity to see the real individual and who they really are in their element and when they're having a good time. So that it's a huge benefit for all of us to be involved. The lessons I think that we've learned is participants, for the most part, they grumble about it in the beginning, but they love it when they're there. They have a good time. They let down their guards. We get to see them for who they are. We get to see their family. We get to, meet and visit and have that community. And culturally, that's a huge part of the Chickasaw Nation is community and family and just to connectedness. I feel like, they, as participants, feel more connected to the drug court team and to our staff when they're able to share in those personal moments. Employment. So CJ had mentioned there are so many programs within the Chickasaw Nation, it's hard to keep up. But some of the ones that we partner with the most is with the employment. There is a whole department division that is, they have really taken on the agenda of trying to get those Chickasaw citizens who are having a hard time finding employment, that just aren't what one would consider to be the most employable people because their background isn't the prettiest. We have 2 services that we have. One of them is called Chickasaw Employment Access. We call it CEA. And then there's also another one. It's called the Day Program, which isn't listed on here, but it's kind of like a day labor in a way. It's like your entry level. They are given job or taught and given the opportunity for job skills, technical services. We have the Chickasaw Institute is kind of like a tech school in a way. They have the opportunity to learn different job skills that they normally wouldn't have had an opportunity to learn due to financial barriers. This is an opportunity for our citizens to experience things at no cost to them, and to also give them a boost, really, not a handout. I don't foresee that our services are a handout by any way, but a hand up, an opportunity, job skills. In the end, I think the success of having most of our participants participate in these work programs has been they have gone on to actually have full-time jobs. They have gone on to have full benefits, not only for themselves, but for their children and their extended and their family. They have the opportunity to, participate in all things that we all want. The opportunity to have solid employment, to have transportation, to gain the good things of life that they've dreamed to have and wish to have. They also have the opportunity to continue to have support, because within these programs are also embedded other navigators of some nature and what they call career counselors to help them answer those questions and fill the gaps as what to do next. Partnering with these services within the nation has been just another way for us to have wrapped around integrated care for those that we serve. Any other successes? I mean, I could go on, and I'm trying not to. Regina, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that within this employment discussion, we can also kind of pull the community involvement as well, because these programs that Amber mentioned, there may be certain instances where there's just not a job available, or whatever reason there aren't openings in the program they want, right away. So they are also working within the community as well, and have partnerships within the community, employers within the community that really enjoy working with drug court participants and have a really great relationship with our drug court. So it's just another collaborative, integrative way that other programs within the Chickasaw Nation are also collaborating with the community and working together to help people be their best.
I think we're reading each other's minds, Regina. I was going to share something similar, so thank you for offering that for us.
Just to wrap up this slide in the compliance component of it, compliance, when our relationship with these other programs and services, we have been able, our compliance officer has been able to also forge that alliance and be able to go see people in their element, working, making a living, providing for their family, and just seeing another side of the participant. But also being a witness to them being where they need to be. And also the participants knowing that, at any given time, a compliance could pop in, for any reason. One, to check on them. Two, to say, hey, someone's looking for you. But it's another way for compliance to be embedded in everything that those that we serve are doing. Well, and again, we've been talking about compliance for a minute now. Our light horseman, he's an investigator. He's full-time with us. That hasn't always been the case. We only had him not even part-time, there for a little bit. And he, in documenting and keeping up with the level of care that we feel that those we serve needed, he came to us, and Regina, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and said, hey, they need more time. They need more attention, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they just need more support. They need to know that we're here to help, not to hurt. So I feel like he was a huge role. I guess he spoke to this, on a firsthand knowledge as to the need that we weren't really meeting at the time. So we had the opportunity to have an internal memo in between Recovery Resource Services and the Light Horse Police Department to allow us to have someone with us all the time. And believe me, we keep him busy. I think the outcome of that, like I've mentioned in previous slides, is just building the relationship, fostering a positive environment that those we serve haven't had up until getting into our program. Up until that point, their experience with law enforcement hasn't been great. It hasn't been a positive time in their life. So for them to have the opportunity to at least build a positive relationship with one law enforcement individual, I feel like is a step in the right direction. The lessons we've learned is it's not necessarily that we want to keep a thumb on them or we want to make them feel like they're always being watched. I think the success of that is being that they start to realize that no matter who's on the team, we're all there because we want them to succeed. We want them to have something better than they had before. And we're willing to do whatever we need to do to help them do that. Not do it for them, but to help them and guide them. And compliance is leading that charge along with the therapists and the navigators. Anything else to add?
I want to jump in there just real quick, Amber. I just wanted to kind of talk about for a moment the drug court, the Pontotoc County Drug Court here in Ada. It's a pretty large drug court. There's about 150 people in that drug court, and about a third of those are First Americans, and most of them are Chickasaw. So because of the large number of citizens that we have in this drug court, it's when we first started offering our treatment services and I think we had him maybe 16 hours a week, just 2 days, and just keeping up with all of them was, like Amber said, just really, really hard. And the drug court itself has a couple of compliance officers, but also, as Amber mentioned, just those interactions weren't always the greatest. And just not only that, but just compliance and First American citizens in the Chickasaw Nation, having one of our own officers who is also, very well educated and well versed and well aware of resources that we have within the nation, and involved with our team as he is, as Amber has mentioned, just really enhanced this tremendously. And so I think we could talk about this a lot longer, but I just wanted to mention, so he provides compliance for all of our folks. The other ones help out, as needed, but he does the majority of it, and it's been really, really great. That's all I have.
All right, the education component of it. We have the opportunity to also have an education services that provide GED, reading education, opportunities for those that we serve as well as within the nation. But they also provide them to other natives or other First Americans and those that are not First Americans. So our participants also have that opportunity if they haven't had the opportunity to get their GED. to spend their time while participating in our services and get that with all the opportunities and all the resources that are available. Right now, an interesting thing is we have transitioned to online services. So those we serve can log in online and still continue to work on their education and continue to succeed in areas that they probably thought were not ever going to happen. You know, that their self-esteem is something I think that I've failed to mention throughout this whole thing, is building self-esteem, getting them to see themselves and allowing them to continue to learn. I think that is something too, just fostering that environment where they feel free to get outside their comfort zone. The education component of it has been an area where it's been hard to motivate them, not because they didn't want it, but it was fear. We have an amazing education services, and they work really hard with those we serve to break it down, to start where they're at, and to continue to build. The outcome of our participants participating in the GED program, they get their GED. We've had, I've lost count of how many has been able to obtain their GED, and we've had quite a few go on to college and succeed. I think our biggest success thus far, we have one that is working on their doctorate. And so that's not our success again, that is theirs, but I feel like fostering an environment where they felt comfortable and willing and safe to shoot for their dreams and hopes is huge. There's a little note on your screen that says the Department of Mental Health and Services of Oklahoma, we were awarded in 2018 and 2019 as a drug court, Pontotoc County Drug Court, the educational award. I think that is something to toot our horn about, because our services and there actually is two programs that work with the Pontotoc County Drug Court participants, but I feel like that is something we do well. We try really hard. We give them every opportunity to succeed academically. And the sky is the limit. Governor Anitubby, he has, like CJ has referenced in earlier slides, he's a visionary on so many levels, and he has really provided many opportunities for Chickasaw citizens to meet every educational goal that they have. Health integration. CJ had mentioned that we are connected in the health record at our medical center. That has been a game changer for sure. When you're working independently and you're depending on those you serve to tell you what their medical needs are, it's really difficult, because sometimes they don't even know because they haven't been to the doctor in so long. Being able to be and document in their medical record has given us the opportunity to reconnect them to things that they have neglected because of their addiction, and to get them back to treating themselves well. You know, self-care. We all talk about that. I'm almost positive. We have to be kind to ourselves. You know, if we can't help ourselves, we can't help anybody else. So getting them to see, not only do they need to, you know, make different choices, but they also need to ensure that medically they're doing okay. A lot of times that in itself will affect our mental health, is our physical health. There's mobile units that the Chickasaw Nation has that goes to different sites and stuff, and we can do immunizations, hearing tests, dental checks. I really do believe the sky is the limit on the opportunities that we have on the mobile unit. It seems like there's always something. They're like, we're trying to configure it for this. So we have medical, we have the big hospital, which is in Ada. It's called Chickasaw Nation Medical Center. And then we also have satellite clinics within the boundaries of the Chickasaw Nation, where we're able to provide medical services, dental services, optometry services. There's even, I think we've even extended it to some pediatric services as well in some of the satellite clinics. Immunizations is huge in the well-being of all of those that we serve. But being able to look and say, hey, okay, they have all these chronic medical issues and they haven't been to the doctor in 2 years. Hey, what do you think? You know, planting the seeds. We have the opportunity to plant the seeds of, let's start taking care of ourselves. Let's start, you know, preparing for, you know, the next generation. Because we want to be there and we want to be a part of it. And we want to share our experiences and our heritage with that next generation. Compliance is huge in this too. Because again, that's another nugget that they can follow up with when visiting with them and checking on them. Or when they see them at the medical center, you know, just saying, hey, how's it going? Do you need anything? Just, you know, caring enough to ask. Compliance is huge in that. Following up with them, hey, you know, I've been told by your navigator that these are the things you're trying to get lined up. Have you done that? You know, can I help with that? Do you need a ride there? And not becoming punitive, but just, you know, more caring. Anything else to add with that? The successes, I think, have been that we have been able to help people identify some major medical issues and walk that journey with them. I know that doesn't sound successful, but I feel proud to be given the opportunity to help somebody through a major medical issue and them come out the other side. Just not necessarily, well, I mean, obviously better, but they have grown emotionally and we've been able to guide them through that and to be a support system for them. I don't know, I've lost count on what slide I'm on. Oh, this is CJ. Hallelujah.
Right. Thanks, Amber. Amber, I think much like you were saying there in that example, when we are able to identify some major medical issues and health concerns and health risks for our Chickasaw Drug Court participants, it really speaks to this idea that when a Chickasaw enters our drug court program, because of our involvement, we really see it as an opportunity to completely, in so many different ways, enhance their overall quality of life. And so what we hope is happening and what we think we see happening for our Chickasaw Drug Court participants through our services is that through the Chickasaw way, as we sometimes refer to it, we're stopping that vicious cycle and creating hope for future generations. The first 6 bubbles on this slide are identical to the first 6 bubbles on the previous slide at the beginning of our presentation. We obviously cannot go back and change the past, but we can work to provide a better future for our citizens and for our people. And so at any one of these remaining bubbles, we see that as an opportunity to intervene in the life of a citizen suffering from addiction, and it provides us an opportunity to help them do better for themselves, for their family, for their community, and for their tribe. And so through some of the examples that Amber and Regena shared with you, through our cultural enhancement groups that take place with our participants, we're able to reconnect them back to key aspects of their culture. We touched on several examples where through our tribal programs, we have opportunities to advocate on behalf of our citizens. I'll just share a very brief, but I think powerful example of how all of our programs work together to advocate for our citizens. About 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we became aware of a Chickasaw who had pled into drug court in McLean County, which is about an hour from Ada. And at the time, that Chickasaw citizen was homeless, literally had nothing to his name but the clothes on his back. And through our navigators actually working in our outpatient services program and connecting to our navigators working in the recovery resources program, we were able to physically transport that citizen to Ada. And through our partnerships with those counties, we were able to have his court, Amber and Regina, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the legal terminology there, but he was moved to Ada, and therefore Pontotoc County took over his case more or less. And so immediately through the Recovery Resources Program at that point, they were able to link him to all of those services that we've described earlier. Immediately got him set up with adequate and safe housing, additional clothing through our Atali clothing program here in the Chickasaw Nation. Immediately began working with the Chickasaw Employment Access Division to provide employment opportunities. And within 2 years, he ultimately went on to graduate drug court, had a full-time job. And so that is an example where we are able to intervene, we're able to advocate, we're able to provide those additional services to support their overall quality of life. Through our health integration and shared medical record, as was described earlier, we can provide more comprehensive healthcare services for our citizens. And then ultimately, we think that leads to a higher percentage of Chickasaw drug court participants actually graduating from the program, which then, as Amber was mentioning earlier, provides that hope and foundation for the betterment of future generations within our tribe. And so that will bring our presentation portion of this training to a close. And so we wanted to open it up to questions that you may have.
Hello, CJ. This is Jordan. I do just see one more question open. And the question is, are the ceremonies that you referenced used to define the holistic approach?
Amber, could you maybe help me out with that question, or Regina, if you have some insights on that?
Well, the ceremonies, I think to define the holistic approach, I think which is not something that I failed to mention, we have our core values. We have core values that we infuse in everything that we do. All of our modalities, all the curriculum that we have is evidence-based. However, we infuse our own cultural standards and beliefs in everything we do. I think that in and of itself is the holistic approach in the beginning, but also the wraparound services that we have, everything that we provide to them, every connection that we make or we encourage them to make or that they make on their own, is primarily through the Chickasaw Nation. We try to not only to network ourselves internally, but encourage them and teach them how to network to build that ability and knowledge of what the Chickasaw Nation is able to provide, what is available to them, what they can do to push those agendas forward, and just to continuously infuse the cultural beliefs of the Chickasaw people. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yes, I think that's a great response, Amber. Thank you so much.
There's one that popped up on the chat. It says, how do you handle mixed households with both Indian and non-Indian alcohol drug abusers? It looks like where the non-Indian spouse is in state court and the Indian spouse is in tribal court. I can answer that. Amber, you jump in. But again, here where we are, we do not have a tribal court. So in those instances, we do have situations where you have a couple and maybe the wife is Native and the husband is not. And in that instance, they would both be in the county drug court. The non-Native would receive treatment services through the state agency, and the Native would receive substance use treatment with us, with Recovery Resource Services. There are some services within the tribe that they could both be hooked up to together. Amber, you want to elaborate on that, CJ?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like they would be separated. However, they would still be provided many opportunities since there is a First American and they are Chickasaw. Their children obviously would be Chickasaw as well. So the Chickasaw Nation has been fortunate enough to extend many services to the spouses who are not Native. So that means that the family services that we already provide, they would be eligible for any of the social services. They still would be eligible for because they do have a citizen in their home. The only truly difference would be their treatment would be different. Their treatment agency would be different, but they still would be pulled in as that family unit for many. They would be included in a lot of our cultural activities that we provide, obviously, because it's their family. A good example, my dad is non-Native. However, he didn't miss out. he got to go to, we provide a meal at our annual meeting most years, not this year. He is not left out. The family member that is not Native is never left out because they are ours, even though they're not Native. They are still family. And I think Regina and CJ can probably attest to that. When you become an employee, just because you may not be Chickasaw, you are still a Chickasaw at that point when you sign that dotted line. So that's the mentality. Technically, since we are a tribally funded program, we cannot provide services to those that are not Native or not connected to the tribe or Native and not of another tribe, but not Native. We can do that too, but they have to have some connection, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that came out right, but I don't know. I can't reinforce they are not left out in the cold. We bring them into the fold as much as we can and include them in everything that we possibly can. And we have a spouse they can get their medication through our medical system, even though they may not be Native American or a First American. There's many opportunities where we bring them in the fold, even though they may not have that First American status. Does that answer the question, or did I go a little overboard? Because I do that. So.
No, thank you, Amber. I think that was a great response, and we don't have any follow-up on that. However, we are coming up to time right now, but I did want to just provide some additional logistical notes for our attendees today. But once again, thank you to the Chickasaw team for sharing all of this about your program today. It's been a really interesting discussion. Thank you all for attending session E2, Recovery from Native American Treatment Court Participants, presented by Regina Frye, Amber Hoover, and Dr. CJ Aducci. They are all from the Strong Family Development Program with the Chickasaw Nation Department of Family Services. All of our sessions have been recorded and are available. You may be able to find those recordings at enhancementtraining.org. Once again, thank you to the Chickasaw team, and thank you to our audience for attending today. We very much appreciate it.